You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. Once again, we are here. We have another amazing show lineup for y'all today. Today, we have a great story. We have an amazing person. Her name is Jennisue Jessen, and she is the founder of an amazing program. It's Compass 31. Go to the website, compass31.org. We're going to be talking about her amazing, powerful story of not just survival, but what she's doing today to help others to not just survive, but to be rescued. Today's topic is going to be a little heavy, so I do want to put a warning out there. If you have any experience with trauma or any issues with what we might be discussing today's story with her, that you please be advised. This will definitely be a mature topic. So first and foremost, thank you for taking time talking to us today. How are you doing on this afternoon?
I am doing great today, and I'm so honored to share some time and space with both you and your audience. I appreciate you giving the content warning in advance. It is a challenging subject. We're going to talk about human trafficking, but in reality, you ask how I am today, and I'm living happily ever after today. So there is a good purpose in the story overall.
For our audience, kind of take us back how your journey started. I understand your story takes place in Missouri. Kind of illustrate for us what happened to you.
Yeah, I grew up in the Midwest, Southwest Missouri, and a long time ago. And my grandfather started selling me to other men for sex at the age of 4. And that's when my world really turned upside down and inside out. By the time I was 5 in kindergarten, I was praying to God every night that God would just let me die. I don't know, a lot of little kids learn a prayer. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. But instead of that, I was pleading with God to just please not make me wake up again. In first grade, I had the first symptoms of a sexually transmitted infection. Second grade, I went to a church on a Sunday morning and sat behind the man who paid to rape me the night before. Third grade, encountered a particularly violent perpetrator who fractured my neck in 2 places and my pelvis in 3 places. And the exploitation continued until right before my 18th birthday. I had given up all hope of escape or freedom and planned to end my own life. I attempted and failed at that, and the following day found out that I was pregnant. And I often say, God used sin to send a son that saved my life. That pregnancy, that baby actually awoke in me this mama bear instinct, so that I was finally able to tell a counselor enough about what was happening for her to intervene and get myself and my son to a place of safety and begin my recovery journey.
Once again, talk to Jennisue Jessen. Go to her website. It is compass31.org. I want to talk about that experience when you decided you were 18, when you decided to go get help after your son was born. Kind of give us that process, because you were going through this abuse for years. I can only imagine what could have been going through your mind when you decided, okay, now is time to get that help.
Yeah, the thing is, as a child, there were a handful of times that I tried to fight, tried to run. I bit one perpetrator. I was not ever successful. I learned the hard way that my survival depended on my silence and my submission. But then at 18 and pregnant and with an innocent baby to protect, I had to, out of desperation, out of hope, out of fierce anger, mama bear claws just grew as quickly as this child within me. I had to protect this child. And so I took a chance. I had already had a counselor for a couple of years and had built a relationship with her, but I had not disclosed with her my experience of trafficking. We were talking about the fact that there was alcoholism in my family and some issues around self-harm, but I had not disclosed to her until with the birth of my child. I thought, I can't get out on my own and I can't kill myself. So I've got to figure out another way. And started what's really common with survivors of violence is what we call drip disclosures. You tell just enough to measure or gauge the person's response. Is this going to be safe? Is it going to create further danger? And I had an amazing counselor that by then we already had 2 years of connection and rapport. So when I started to disclose, she was able to engage in a way that was really, really helpful.
And what was your environment like as far as where you were staying? Were you in the process of maybe going off to college, or were you staying with friends? How did that work?
Yes, my child was born during Christmas break, my freshman year in university. And so between finding out that I was pregnant in April, right before I graduated high school, and him being born in December, my freshman year, I moved out on my own. And my experience was familial trafficking. It was my grandfather. So there's only so much distance you can get within a family unit. My college or university that I was going to was only about 30 minutes from my grandfather's house. But disclosing to my parents and other family members and confronting my grandfather with the help of my counselor provided the distance I needed emotionally to begin my recovery. So,
and when things from the outside looking in, it sounds like things begin to unravel. How much information did your family know as far as what you were going through versus once you got with a counselor, things really started to open up? What were some of the reactions, and how did that affect you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the circumstances of my childhood, people often ask, where were your parents? And the situation was my dad was an alcoholic and my mom was addicted to my dad. So when my home was chaotic, I really believe with the best intention, sent me to live at my grandparents' house, who were 3 hours away. And I think they really thought they were doing what was best, but my grandfather was a wicked bad guy. And so that allowed the access that he had to me. Once I did disclose to my parents, immediately, both my mom and my dad wept, and so many aha moments like, oh, this is why. Little things, big things. The fact that when I would go to my grandparents' house 3 hours away, I would be car sick. I would vomit relentlessly in the car the whole way there. But on the way home, the 3 hours coming back home, I never got sick. Same road, same car, same curves, same hills, but sick going, not sick coming home. There was a medical incident when I was about 9 years old that put me in a catatonic state. My mom remembered that situation and all the pieces came together. There was just a big aha in the family. And a couple of other family members disclosed at that time that they had experienced sexual assault at the hands of my grandfather as well. But everybody was holding it in their own little box or capsule, if you will, thinking that each one of us was experiencing, we were the only one. It was our fault. And so once I blew up the family, so to speak, by disclosing, there was a whole lot of supporting stories and evidence. So that was a really beautiful and healing piece of my journey.
That's on Refocus Radio, talking to our special guest today, Jennisue Jessen. Go to her website. She's the founder of compass31.org. Let's not speed up too fast, but when you founded Compass 31, is based off of the scripture that I want you to share with the audience. But before you launched this project, what was the time period for you to say, you know what, I want to start something to start rescuing others?
You know, healing for me has been a lifelong journey. I got free at the age of 18. Compass 31 was born when I was 49. So 39 years old. So it has been a long process of recovery. During that time, definitely learning that the way that I feel about anything in the world boils down to two things: the picture that's playing in my head and the words I tell myself about that picture. And I came to understand that my trauma equipped me for impact instead of defined me as a victim. And as I moved into that healing and space, learned that my story has purpose. It has impact in empowering others to come to freedom. And that's a large part of how and why Compass 31 was born in 2011.
When you look at the process of putting the pieces together and creating solutions for others to have hope, I mean, what you had to go through for all those years, just thinking about what could have been going through your mind on the road trips, going to that place and coming back from that place. It almost, from the outside looking in, it was like you were just a yo-yo, like just a roller coaster ride back and forth. Like you know what you're about to expect, but you were still able to survive. Being able to survive all that, I guess what I'm trying to ask is how determined were you to create these solutions to help rescue others? Because you really went through a whole lot to be able to be positioned to have a powerful organization.
That is a beautiful question, and I'll answer it as authentically as I can. For me, faith is really strategic and important. It's part of my personal journey, and I don't share that as a way to try to be pushy or proselytize. But for me, if it was up to me and my strength, I wouldn't have made it. I tried to complete my suicide and failed. But for me, I believe God met me in the darkest places and pulled me out of it. And he, for me, did that with great love and care. And so that journey then definitely influences everything I do. I say the love of Christ compels me. It's not even my own love. I don't have the capacity. I don't have the strategy. I don't have the will in and of myself. But because I believe it's his prerogative to set captives free, and he's still doing it. So I would say all credit goes to him. But I thank you for the question, because that comes back to that idea that my trauma equipped me. I can interact with people who are being exploited. I speak their language. I speak the native language of exploitation. I survived it. I learned to exist within it, and I've learned to exist on the other side of it.
When you came up with the name Compass 31, it comes from the scripture Jeremiah 31, verses 8 through 9. When you see the impact that your organization has been able to make, it's a lot of lives that you've been able to save. How does that make you feel to know that not only have you been able to survive your own trauma, but you're now enabling others to live their life in full again?
Yeah, it is exponentially beyond what I ever dreamed possible. As a wee little bitty, when I was praying every night that God would let me die, there was certainly a season in my teenage years and college years that I was furious that he didn't let me die. I thought, if God is good and has compassion, that's the very least he could do, would just let me die. And so now to have a front row seat to watch freedom and redemption unfold again and again is just wildly beyond what I ever imagined. I think last year, our statistics, we saw God impact more than 53,000 lives. And overall, since our inception, we've impacted, not we, but he through us, our work has impacted more than 375 individuals across 44 nations. So again, it's like being strapped into a roller coaster, and I don't have the control. I don't have the on and off button. I'm literally strapped into this beautiful, amazing, wild ride of seeing individuals rise to their highest capacity.
And for our audience, for them to get a better grasp of what your organization does, kind of break it down, what are some of the key components that your organization, your team, what you do, and how do these operations work?
Great question. We focus in 3 particular areas. We have prevention, restoration, and leadership development. Prevention, we have a tool that we created it launched in 2013 called Priceless Cube. We train national leaders to use this tool in their own communities with their own language, with their own analogies, but it's a human trafficking prevention curriculum, Priceless Cube. And that's being utilized right now in 44 nations, which is super, super exciting. And then we have restoration work. And restoration work is where we serve individuals that have experienced exploitation and are coming out. Right now, our youngest participants are 4 years old, and our oldest right now is 32, because part of our paradigm is that flows into leadership development. And that is we walk alongside our program participants to the highest level of education they desire. So you can imagine a child that comes into our program at 4 and gets put in a foster care family. That's a long-term commitment. It's not just a quick 6-month fix it and pat on the head and you're done. It's long-term. And so one of our participants has graduated law school and passed her bar exam, to have gotten master's degrees in social work. We have 2 more master's degree candidates that will graduate in May of 2025. So that's the leadership development piece. So all 3 pieces flow together. The survivors that are in our program, they're also equipped with our prevention program as they're doing their school and their education. So they re-enter their communities and their cultures as people of impact. And it's incredible to watch all the pieces strategically fit together.
We're talking to our guest today, Jennisue Jessen. Go to her website, compass31.org. My next question for you is, you being in the trenches doing this work, you know firsthand the problem that's there. Paint the picture for our audience. How big is this problem really in America? And how is that something that you've been able to maybe use with informing the government, if you will, some of the things that needs to be brought to attention in order to really peel back the onion?
It is so pervasive. We in the US, we kind of have this idea of it only happening over there somewhere. And it does happen over there somewhere. But we also have these really glamorized ideas of, Hollywood blockbuster movies and Liam Neeson or Jim Caviezel kicking down doors and beating up bad guys and rescuing kids. But the reality is it is happening in every state, in every city in the US. It's happening in every neighborhood. the vast majority of youth that are being exploited are actually living in homes and going to school. They often are in foster care. They've had several interactions with family services and law enforcement, compounding their vulnerability. But it is happening all around us. And the bridge to trafficking, certainly sexual exploitation, is sexual abuse in the home or in the family. So if you have a child who's abused at home, or, maybe at home by a babysitter or a neighbor, maybe it's not a family member, but a child who's sexually abused develops a sense of their worth being defined by what is happening to them, or if they could do things better, these violent things wouldn't happen to them. And that compounding vulnerability then makes them an open target for perpetrators. So kids run away from home within 72 hours. They're met by somebody with ill intent who is able to manipulate their vulnerability and their emotions to put them in a place of exploitation where they then begin profiting from that vulnerability. So again, it's in every school, it's in every church, it's in every community in the US, but we're so busy in our lives that we don't slow down and see what's happening all around us.
When you think about your parents, have you ever had a chance to have conversation with them where they were able to point out maybe some signs that they probably missed? And if so, was some potential signs that there could be risk with someone who might be going through it?
Yeah, for me, a lot of people ask, well, why didn't you tell? Why didn't you tell your parents? Why didn't you tell anyone? And there's a whole lot of complex psychology that goes into the secret keeping, right? But there were ways that that I was trying to tell. For example, in kindergarten, I drew a picture for Thanksgiving of my family. Drew everybody normal size, fully clothed, but my grandfather in the picture was 2 or 3 times the size of everyone else. And he was naked and he had an erection. And my kindergarten teacher was concerned about the photo or the picture that I drew colored and called my mom. My mom came and picked me up, looked at the picture and was furious. Tore the picture up in little pieces, said, we do not draw pictures like that. And there was no conversation after. So there are ways that children will try to disclose the way that my body was disclosing. I had chronic urinary tract infections, was in the hospital several times. The sexually transmitted infection was diagnosed by the school nurse after my first grade teacher saw that I was uncomfortable. Again, they called my mom. My mom took me to the doctor, got the medicine that I needed, but nobody asked any questions. So there are ways that children try to disclose without words. And part of the reason is a 4, 5, 6, 7, 10-year-old does not have words to make sense of what is happening. So behavior is a big indicator. Children that become withdrawn, or maybe they're usually very outgoing and very gregarious, but with a certain family member or neighbor, now they're withdrawn. Now they're sullen. Now they're quiet. Maybe they're a straight A student at school, but with this one individual, they are functionally mute. They don't communicate at all. So there's signs like that, the differences in the behavior, certainly signs of self-harm. Children will, from wee little bitty kids, bang their heads, scratch themselves. Cutting is a very prevalent phenomenon right now. And it's just a way of the brain trying to reconcile. I'm carrying this pain. Do you see how much I'm hurting? Do you see how much I'm hurting? Can anybody see that I'm hurting? And so our bodies tell a story. Our bodies carry this trauma when we don't have words to explain it.
Once again, listen to Refocus Radio. We're talking to our guest today, Jennisue Jessen. Go to her website. She's the founder of Compass31.org. My next question, I can't believe time just flew out like that, but I have to ask a few more questions. When you look at the opportunity for communities to pay attention to stories like yours, what general words of wisdom will you give people who hear this show, what they can do to get involved, whether it's to keep being alert or if it's to be involved in organizations like yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. People can get involved. I recommend doing research online. If you want to get involved in counter-trafficking organizations, look for organizations that are survivor-led and or survivor-informed, because those of us that have experienced it, we know the native language. And so we typically have a higher degree of impact, positive impact, than those that are not survivor informed. So I encourage people to do research. If you want to volunteer, every organization needs volunteers. If you want to donate or give, every organization needs finances. Trafficking is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it takes resources to fight that. But at its core, my answer is for so many of us, we're busy scurrying and scrolling through our lives. I got to get from point A to point B, pick the kids up, go to soccer practice, make dinner, do it all again. It's such a busy life. And when we have a moment to slow down, we get sucked into scrolling through our phones, when in reality, there are hurting people all around us. So I say the number one thing to do to prevent or disrupt trafficking is to slow down to the speed of love. And that means put down your phone and be aware of who's around you, who's in front of you in the grocery store line, who is the girl at the restaurant with bruises up and down her arms. Notice the people around you and make yourself available to seeing and hearing their story. Enter into the mess of that, and you will find that you are strategically disrupting trafficking by meeting vulnerable people where they're at.
This is Refocus Radio, talking to our guest, Jennisue Jessen. She is the founder of Compass 31. Go to the website, compass31.org. Can't believe time just flew out the window that fast, but like always, I want to say real quick before I close. Someone that's listening to this right now and they want to help your organization, what can they do that can really help what your team does?
Come visit us at compass31.org. We've got all kinds of resources for free. We certainly need investment. We need partners, and I need volunteers desperately. Whatever your skill set is, reach out to me via Compass 31 and I can put you to work. An hour a week, 2 hours a week, 40 hours a week remotely. Reach out.
Like I always want to say, thank you for your time.